Happy Frugal Friday, friends. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are talking about how to do a little frugal refresh, if you will. We're talking about freeing ourselves from frugal fatigue. Some of you might never have experienced frugal fatigue, and if you haven't, good for you. But the rest of us sometimes, no matter how frugal we become, the habit of being frugal, it's automatic. We're on autopilot. It's just the way we think. It's just the way we live. But every once in a while, despite all that, despite the fact that I know being frugal benefits me greatly, there are these times, these little passing, fleeting moments where I'm like, when do I get to just spend? When do I have to stop worrying about the budget? When can I just pay for things and not worry about it? Is that even a thing? Time to get serious. Something's missing. Oh! These are not prescription. They're to help when I'm at the computer, but what? If anyone sees my lens, let me know. So let's get into it. When you're feeling a little frugal fatigue and you need a little bit of a little motivation, a little push to keep going, let's talk about how to combat this feeling of fighting frugal fatigue. Okay, the first thing people say, and this is kind of triggering for me for some reason. This phrase, when people say it, they make it sound like they're the first person that ever said it. And that is, remember your why. While this is sound advice, it is. If you can go back to the place, why did I even start doing this? But honestly, sometimes it takes more than just a memory to keep me going, to be very honest. So kind of along those lines of remember your why, let's take it a step further and let's actually have some evidence. Let's write it out. Make a short list or a long list of everything that you've accomplished, everything that's happened because you have chosen a frugal lifestyle. I'll give you a quick one for me. I was able to pay off my car in full so I didn't have a car payment going forward. I was able to get into position to purchase a home, and I was also able to save up an emergency fund. Had I not chosen a frugal lifestyle, I'm not really sure I would have gotten there on any of those, actually. The next thing that might work for you is try to find a way to feel the way you want to feel without having to spend money per se, or a lot of money, or try to think about what is the feeling I'm trying to feel and try to see if there's something you can do to get that feeling instead of the rush of spending money. I'm going to give you an example. Back when I lived in Florida, there was one day I was living at a place that had a pool. I was floating around the pool with my friends in a nice float, in my bathing suit, catching the sun. And I said, oh, I wish I had $1 million so I could do this all the time. And my friend said, why do you need $1 million? We're doing it right now. Which reminded me of the movie Office Space, which I love, by the way. And there's this scene where he's sitting with his neighbor and he was like, well, what would you do if you had, I can't remember the exact amount, $1 million. And the main character's like, I would do nothing. I would do nothing. And his neighbor's like, you don't need $1 million to do nothing. And I just remember the feeling of being in that pool and thinking, if I had a lot of money, I could afford to sit around like this. But guess what? I was already sitting around like this and I didn't have that kind of money. But I wanted to feel the luxury of what it would be like to have that money, but I was already doing it. Do you know what I'm saying? So sometimes you want to feel luxurious and like you're on vacation. I was floating around with a drink in my hand in the pool already, and I don't have $1 million, and I was quite content. I hope you see what I'm trying to illustrate here. Sometimes you can have an experience that doesn't actually take what you think it takes to have. Does that make sense? The next thing you can do is go ahead and spend a little. Nobody is telling you, I'm not telling you, what you can spend money on and what you can't. The whole idea of frugal living, I think you guys know, is to embrace the idea of spending on the things that you value and not spending on the things that you don't, so you have the money for the things that you value the most. Now, that being said, sometimes you want to spend a little bit. And if it's something that you really love and that you're going to get a lot of use out of, spend once in a while, okay? There's nothing wrong with that. See how it feels. See how it feels to spend the money and then see how you feel after it. Was it worth it? Was it worth it to you? Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. And you go, you know what? That wasn't as great as I thought it would be. And then you don't do it again. Or if it was, I'm going to move into my next thing. If you need to spend a little more, maybe you've pulled in the reins real tight, not out of necessity, but because of choice. If it's out of necessity, that might be a whole different ballgame. If you are frugal out of necessity, then you might not have these options right now. But the more you practice frugality, the more your choices will probably increase. But let's say you're not doing out of complete essential need, immediate essential need. You're doing it because you are choosing to, okay? If you're choosing to, then try to work it into the budget. A little fun money, little spending money, little money for me, however you want to put it, so that you do have that little thrill of spending whatever the amount is on what gets you really excited. There's nothing wrong with building into your budget, especially if you're building the budget by choice, of having a little bit of fun and a little bit of money for things that feel a little bit not necessary. Now, that being said, you don't want to do that all the time or you're not going to have any money. But once in a while, spending a little and then actually building it into your budget so there's nothing that's suffering. Maybe you're spending a little bit too much on one category that you could cut back on and you could spend it a little bit more here. Say you've been going out to eat a ton recently because you didn't want to cook. Cut down on the restaurants a little bit and eat at home so that you can buy a new pair of earrings or whatever. I digress, but you get what I'm saying. Spending is not the enemy here. It's spending on what you're actually going to derive joy and value out of. So spend a little, see how you feel, see how it goes. And again, if it's something that is important to you, having that feeling, try to build it into your budget. So there's no guilt about it. You've built it right in there. You can have whatever you want. You just have to choose what that is. Next, another thing that might be a little helpful time to time is decrease your time on social media. I know for me, if I'm in a scroll hole and I'm getting bombarded with messages and ads, sometimes I feel that feeling of like, oh, maybe I need that. Maybe I want that. It's pretty fleeting for me now because I usually let them bounce off, but I'm not immune to it either, you know? So if social media is something that's, or all the emails you're getting with all the sales, you know what I mean? Unsubscribe, unfollow, all the things, but spending a little less time on social media really helps me sometimes when I'm a little bit just overstimulated with purchase envy. Is that a thing? You might watch social media, doesn't even faze you. And if that's the way you feel, cool, then it doesn't bother you. But if you're a person that is very susceptible to the suggestion of things, just spend a little less time on it. Might help a little bit. Next idea is to make it a game. Every time you don't spend on that new sweater, put that money in a savings. Anytime that you were gonna go out to eat and you decided to eat from home, estimate about how much that would have cost, put it aside. Make it a game. How much can you save by making different choices? Again, not putting any pressure on you, but make it a challenge. I think it's a challenge. I think it's fun. I think budgeting's fun. How can I fit this in? How can I get the most for my money? It's like a game. It's a challenge every day, but in a fun way for me. So see what you can do to make it a challenge and be rewarding to have a frugal lifestyle where you can have everything you want, feel abundant, but just by choosing the things that are most important and spending on that. It can be totally fun. I hope that's part of the reason you watch this channel. I think frugal living is fun. I think budgeting's fun. I think minimalism is fun. I think saving money is fun. So try to make it fun. And making it a game or a challenge is always a way to do that. Now is the time to ask yourself this very important question when you are feeling frugal fatigue. when you are feeling like, I am tired of saving, I am tired of stressing about my budget, I am having budget burnout, I don't want to track anymore, ask yourself this question. What happens if I give up? What happens if I give up? What happens if I quit this? What happens if I don't budget anymore? If I just spend on what I want to spend? I feel that phrase, remembering your why, is coming back. Maybe you were in debt a while ago and you are suffering. Maybe you were in so much debt you couldn't sleep at night. Maybe you were living in a world of shame, just filled with shame of the debt and the payments and the creditors, and you couldn't even breathe. What happens if you give up? What happens if you call it a day, call it a week, call it a year, and just spend like crazy and get yourself into that position again? What happens if you don't have an emergency fund? What happens if you can't pay your medical bills? What happens if the tire blows and you don't have any money to pay for it? I promise you, I'm not saying that to scare you or to tell you that not being frugal is not right. I'm just saying, what happens if you give up? It's just something to think about. What's the alternative to not being frugal? Where is that going to get you if you give up? Often I think about that quote that has something to do with the idea of, 6 weeks from now, you'll wish you hadn't given up on day 2, Think about year 2 when you've been living frugally and all the things that you're going to accomplish. Go back to the first thing we talked about and look at the list of all the things you've accomplished. And I'm sure you have a lot more on your list. There's no finish line per se in frugal living. It's a choice. Just like with minimalism, just like any lifestyle you choose to participate in it, there's no end. It's the joy of, oh gosh, I sound like a Hallmark card. It's the joy of the journey. But really, it's the joy of the frugal journey. Really, it's about the daily joys and successes that you have. It's not about being how cheap you can be and what can you get away with this little amount. It's not, as you know, it's not quite like that. We've talked about this before, and I've heard some people say, I've never felt that way. I've never felt tired of being frugal. And if that is true, I'm super happy that you feel that way. I just know that a lot of us, that even though we've been practicing for years, we feel once in a while like, I'm tired of this. It's usually a passing moment. And luckily we've built like our frugal muscles, meaning it's just habit. It's what we do. It's how we've chosen to live. It's automatic. Now's your turn. What's the one thing that you think about when you are feeling tired of saving? You're feeling frugal fatigue. What's a tip that you would like to share with our community that is most helpful to you? I want to encourage you to always be evaluating why you do things, if it's a big part of your life, or even sometimes the little things. Because sometimes we just do things so out of habit that we don't even really know why we do them anymore. So it's good to take a look at this once in a while. And if you're having success in your frugal journey, that's plenty of evidence of why this is good for you and how it affects your life. It's good to think these things through. It's good to evaluate once in a while what's working for you and what's not. And if it's not working for you, what can you tweak a little bit so that you can get into a place where your habits, your spending habits, your personal habits, your choices, how can you get to a place that you're going to be happier with, that you're going to be more satisfied with, that's going to bring you more joy, that you're going to feel like this feels like this works for me. This is working for me. If it's not working for you, take a look at it. All of this is a choice. Everything you do most of the day, guys, is a choice. You don't have to do any of this. Is that freeing? You don't have to do any of this. You do what you want. Do what you want. You know what I mean? Some people they feel so restricted. This is not restrictive. I choose to live this way and I love it. And It's not for everyone. But if you are a person that is frugal and you're practicing frugality and you're looking for just, you know, a couple little things to help you stay motivated, I hope this video was really helpful for you. And lastly, all of you frugal channels out there that have anything to do with frugality, I'm going to challenge you to make this same video, but with your spin on it. Please go ahead, title it something similar to my title, and let everyone know in the video that I have challenged you. There's a frugal challenge right there on how to fight frugal fatigue or how to free yourself from frugal fatigue, anything along those lines, so that our community can check out your video too and see if something you say maybe might even be more fitting for what they're trying to accomplish. The more we share, the more helpful we are to each other. And I love seeing what other people come up with. And sometimes I'm watching, I'm like, oh yeah, that could work for me. So I challenge you, if you have a YouTube channel and you live frugally, put it out there. Give us your tips, friends. Let's do it. I can think of about 10 of you right now, but I don't want to say your names in case I forget some people because I would feel so horrible that I forgot. So you know who you are and you are challenged. If you do it, guys, please leave a link to this video below in your description and message me, email me, kadenchannel@gmail.com, and let me know you did it so I can watch it. Thank you. I can't wait. I hope you have an awesome weekend. I hope you catch me Sunday for our book club and, of course, for the next episode of Pajama Drama. Thank you for watching, everyone. Have a great weekend. See you next video.